the AllThingsXR podcast. Where you can get the best AR/VR analyzers from the biggest names in the field. Hi everyone, welcome to the AllThingsXR podcast. I'm Mojtaba. In today's episode, we have a conversation with Robert Scoble about his new book, Infinite Retina. Hi Robert.
Hey, how are you doing? It's an honor to be on.
Thanks very much, Robert. Thanks very much for joining the AllThingsXR podcast, and congratulations on the launch of your new book.
Yeah, thank you. It's been getting really great reviews. Qualcomm's head of AR and VR just rated it 5 stars, so I'm real happy this week.
Great. I usually start the podcast by asking guests to introduce themselves, but I'm sure everyone who listens to this podcast knows you already. So
I doubt it.
No, I don't.
I'll do a little intro just to set the tone for where I'm coming from.
Okay.
This was my 4th book on technology. All 4 of my books predict decade-long trends. And I was a long-time blogger, journalist, futurist. I had the first ride in the first Tesla with Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Siri was launched in my house. I was the first one to see Siri outside of SRI. I was the 79th user of Instagram, stuff like that. Right? I grew up in Silicon Valley, and I've interviewed about 6,000 entrepreneurs and been very fortunate to be either the first or among the first to see a whole range of new technologies. And that continues to today.
Mm-hmm. Great. So can you tell us more about your recent book and what was the initial idea behind it?
Yeah, well, it's sort of funny thinking about the pandemic that just happened. It's still happening, right? But we started this about 1.5 years ago, and we were seeing signs that in the 2020s there would be radical changes to jobs and industries, and we figured out there was going to be 7 industries that would be radically changed by spatial computing. And we should define what spatial computing is, because very few people use that term yet. It's computing that you, a robot, or a human being moves around in and is assisted by AI in. And so the purest forms today are virtual or augmented reality. But what we're seeing is a new product category really is starting to evolve. Something like Microsoft HoloLens, which is still too big and too heavy for a consumer to wear or too expensive to buy. But we know when things start big and ugly and expensive, they get nice and cheap pretty quickly. And we expect that by 2023, Apple is going to be in the market with a pair of glasses that let you see information about the world as you walk around it and play all sorts of new kinds of games and get all sorts of new kinds of services. And that's what our book is about, is what's about to come.
Mm-hmm. So why spatial computing is important?
Well, it's the next paradigm of computing. Right? It's the fourth paradigm of personal computing, right? We started out with the Apple II in 1977, typing commands, 10, go to 20, and 10, print your name, that kind of thing. And very few programs were on the first Apple II that my dad bought, and it was very hard to use. You had to look up in manuals, how to even copy a file, right? And then the second paradigm is graphics on top of that with the Macintosh. And the Macintosh brought a lot of new people into computing. I mean, the Macintosh and then Windows 95, which was basically a copy of it. Brought a lot of new people into computing because it was all of a sudden easier to use a mouse to copy a file instead of having to type a command in a command editor to copy a file. And it also opened up new markets because now we had things like desktop publishing and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the third paradigm is the mobile phone shift, particularly a phone that looks like the iPhone. Because now you have a phone, you have a computer in your hand, and that's a very big jump from the laptop or desktop computers of like the Macintosh. And you have sensors in your hand, and you have always connected computer, right?
Yeah.
Amongst other things. And then you jump into the fourth transformation, where you're going to be wearing a computer on your eyes. And this could be a contact lens. A couple miles from my house, there's a company called Mojo Vision that's making a digital contact lens. But I think most people will be getting a pair, some sort of glasses or blades that you put on, and then it puts information on top of the real world. And that opens up computing to almost another billion people. For instance, there's 800 million people who can't read. And so
Yeah.
reading menus on a Macintosh is really difficult for some people, right? And it's certainly difficult to learn how to use for a whole lot of reasons. I used to work at Microsoft, and I helped a lady copy a file, by dragging it across the desktop. And it took about half an hour for me to work with her on that, maybe 20 minutes working with her on that. It's very hard for people to do some of these things when you're not used to what you're doing, and you're not used to the mouse, and you're not used to having to click on things, right? Well, these computers are going to listen to you and watch your eyes, and they're going to respond to you and help you live things. So you'll be able to say, "Hey Siri, I need a ride," and all of a sudden Uber will pop up or something like it, right? And so yeah, but it really changes some of these industries. For instance, manufacturing. They're doing training now in virtual reality to teach you how to work on a car factory, right? Volkswagen has made what's called a digital twin of the entire car factory, and it's a virtual copy. And so now I can actually see what that car factory looks like while sitting in my house. And I can be trained on a new job while sitting at my house. Maybe right now the car factory is closed, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, all the workers can be getting new kinds of training while sitting at home if they had VR. Now, the problem is not very many people have VR. So this is a real problem for the pandemic right now. But in 5 years, everybody's going to have something like VR, AR or VR on their face. And there's a whole lot of reasons that the statement is going to be pretty true. Everyone being people, with a certain amount of income.
Yeah.
An Apple pair of glasses is going to cost a bit of money, I'm sure. And a Facebook Oculus Quest is $400. So if you can't afford a $400 device, you're going to be a little bit longer before the prices are going to come down. But certainly by the end of 2020s, almost everybody is going to have access to this new kind of computing. Education is radically changing. There's just a couple of weeks ago, I was walking around a virus in a program called Nanome, and with a couple of scientists. And when you're walking around the virus, and keep in mind the virus, you can expand it to be as big as a football field, and then you can actually walk around the chemical structures of the virus or the peptides, right?
Yeah.
And you can actually click on the actual molecules, the actual atoms, and see how the atoms are put together to make the molecule, right? And you can actually try new kinds of drugs out this way. You can understand how this thing works at a really deep level. And you can spin it and make it bigger or smaller. And a scientist next to you can point at something and say, look at this. This is what this is doing. And car design is being done the same way, right? But art is being done the same way. And on. There's so many utilities of this new kind of computing, which requires you to be inside the computer. You're wearing the computer like virtual reality heads.
Yeah.
And when you do that, then you get so many benefits. And soon, Apple is working on a pair of glasses, lightweight pair of glasses that's going to replace eyeglasses with a lot of these features, and that's coming in 2022, maybe even sooner. There was a bunch of rumors last week that it might even come sooner.
Yeah.
So, where should we go? Because we could talk about a bunch. There's 7 industries: transportation, fintech, retail's radically changing because of this technology. If you go to an Amazon store up in Seattle, they're using spatial computing technology to get rid of the checkout counter, right? You just go and grab a bag of chips and walk out of the store, and it automatically charges you and sees what you did. And you don't have to talk to anybody, and you don't have to, have a checkout counter anymore. So we're seeing deep changes in a whole range of things that are going to affect human beings because of these technologies. And by the way, the technologies also include 3D sensors, cameras. Like I'm sitting in a Tesla right now talking to you, and I have 7 cameras on this Tesla, which is seeing the world in 360 degrees. And once you have a camera with an AI chip on it, like the Tesla does, now it can see garbage cans or people or cars and understand the world really deeply. And that also is coming to the glasses because as you walk around, it's going to assist you and know what you're looking at, know what you're trying to do at a pretty deep level.
Yeah. So do you think that AR and VR and spatial computing will disrupt current giant companies, or it will augment them?
Yes. No. Tesla is going to destroy some car companies. And I can tell you, Tesla is not a car company to me. It's a data company. They have they have the only neural network on the road with 800,000 cars driving around. And soon, my car just this last week got an update, which made the self-driving feature better. And every 2 or 3 weeks, I get an update, and it gets better and better. And it's the only car that gets better like this. No other car in the market gets better and better every couple of weeks, right? And so you look at, we wrote about transportation because it's not just cars, it's trucks as well. When autonomous vehicles truly arrive, and there's lots of arguments, is that 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? I really don't care about when it comes because it's coming fast.
Yeah.
My Tesla is starting to drive in on a lot of roads in a lot of situations. Yeah, I still need to be involved, but that is clearly going to be, the steps that are going on leads me to think it's 2 to 5 years away, right? So 5 years from now, my car is self-driving. When self-driving happens, the cost of transportation goes down by 10 times. It goes 1/10 of what it used to cost, because an Uber without a human in it costs about $2 wholesale, and an Uber with a driver in it costs about $18 wholesale.
Yeah.
And so that turns into $60 retail, right? They charge you about $60 an hour for a ride. If Tesla starts self-driving, a Tesla network car is going to be far cheaper than that. And therefore, Uber and Lyft are in great threat of being done away with. And those are 2 big companies, worth tens of billions of dollars on the market right now. And then you start looking at, why would anybody buy a car? Well, some people will. Some people will. You need, if you want a logo on the side of your car, you probably need a permanent car. I call it a permanent, a long range car, because you're still going to just pull out an app and say, hey, I need a pickup truck, but I need it for 2 years. And it'll just drive to your house and wait for you to use it, right?
Yeah.
That'll be, it'll cost you, I don't know, $10. The wholesale cost of a truck that costs $70,000 is about $2 an hour, right? When you part up all the costs. And if you want to keep it for 24 hours, okay, it's $24 or 24 hours times, $2 wholesale. It'll probably be a little bit higher than that, but not much. But who uses a car 24 hours a day? Nobody.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Most cars, you use them an hour or two a day. Even if you drive professionally, like an Uber driver, you use it 10 hours a day. So why are you paying for 24 hours? Why don't you give the car to somebody else and let somebody else drive that car the next 10 hours, and then somebody else, then they give it back to you, or the network figures it out for you. So, by the way, no, there's not going to be professional drivers in the future. We can see this is going to be radically changed. So now, why do you buy a Ford truck? You're going to buy a Cybertruck because the Cybertruck is going to come to you on a phone, and it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to be a better experience because it remembers everything about you, right? And people can't wrap their head around, but once you buy a Tesla, you're like, oh, this is a different experience.
Yeah.
And it's one that's running away with the game. And it's improving at a pretty constant rate. Nobody else is even trying to do that yet, right? Mercedes-Benz, I interviewed we interviewed a lot of car companies. They're like, when are you going to get rid of knobs on the dash? You can't do that. People like knobs on the dash. Yeah, but Tesla doesn't have them. So what's going on here? I can't do it. We have too many existing customers who don't. This is a story of innovation disruption, right?
Yeah.
And you ask them, when are you going to force the customer to use the phone as a key? There's a lot of people who don't like carrying a phone with them, or don't want to use their phone as a key. They're scared of getting locked out of the car. Yeah, but Tesla forces everybody to use the phone as a key. But there's a lot of people who don't like Teslas. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens when you're at 1/10 the price? You're going to pull out your phone and order a Tesla to pick you up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And this is what Elon's planning on, right? And other car companies haven't been able to figure it out. And then you ask them, when are you going to put 8 cameras in the car and a AI chip in the car? The customer doesn't know why they need that yet. So why would they spend $2,000 or $6,000 on a system like that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Elon knows. Elon knows.
He proves to be right every time.
Well, he's one of these Silicon Valley thinkers that understands how to disrupt existing companies.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for existing companies, a lot of them can't react because of their existing customers.
Mm-hmm.
And their existing customers aren't willing to change fast enough to withstand these new demands. I mean, Kodak was the dramatically huge photo industry player in the 80s, right? I sold millions of dollars of Kodak in my store, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they even invented the digital camera. So there was some people there who were clued in, but they couldn't make the business model change to the new world where they weren't going to sell film and paper, right?
Yeah.
And they just couldn't wrap their head around it. They weren't able to get into that new industry, and they certainly weren't able to think about, how to do Instagram, for a whole lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So, now Mark Zuckerberg has the Kodak business. Really, it's true, right? He took the Kodak business. He's like, I'll buy the Instagram for $1 billion. And by the way, most people didn't even understand the day he bought it, why that was worth $1 billion. I was giving a speech that day to a bunch of Irish entrepreneurs, and this is a good story about the spatial computing too. And I said, Mark Zuckerberg this morning bought this company called Instagram. I was the 79th user of it, and it cost $1 billion to buy, and he has 14 employees and no assets and no customers, no sales, no revenues. Yet I think it's the most important purchase Silicon Valley has ever made. And I asked people, does anybody here agree with me? Not a single hand went up. Not a
Uh-huh.
single hand went up. And these were really brilliant, smart people who owned factories and alcohol companies and McDonald's chains in Ireland. And they were here in Silicon Valley to study Silicon Valley disruption. What does it mean to be Silicon Valley? And they couldn't. In fact, many of them started arguing with me and said that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of, a company buying a company like that for $1 billion. And of course, today I'm right.
Yeah.
10 years, 9 years, or whenever later, it's probably in the top 3 acquisitions of all time, right?
Exactly.
In terms of importance, in terms of customer number of customers, in terms of economic value, right? It added many, many billions of dollars to Facebook. So, and I think Instagram is going to be a good jumping point into this future world, because this new visual world that we're heading into is going to be one where cameras are going to play a huge, huge role in controlling our lives, in assisting us, in taking images that you couldn't take with your current iPhone. You're
Yeah.
starting to get a taste of it as they add 3D sensors to the phones. And certainly this October or something, Apple's coming out with a new iPhone with a 3D sensor that sees 300,000 points of data,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
really is the starting point of this new spatial computing
That was a
age.
very strange move. Yeah, putting a
Yeah.
LiDAR on iPad was very strange and very committing move towards the spatial computing.
Yes. Well, they're trying to give developers the tools to start building applications that'll be on the glasses in 2 years. And so they needed to start right now and take their customer on a journey toward this new kind of computing where you're wearing glasses, and where the glasses have a 3D sensor that sees the world and also has cameras so they can see the world and do things for you,
Yeah.
and know where they are very precisely. Very, very, your GPS is pretty, actually, if you actually look at the accuracy of GPS, it's pretty inaccurate. They had to do a lot of tricks to make it accurate enough for the little blue dot.
Yeah.
But the actual reading you're getting off is, you can be 10 meters away and, it's not real accurate. The glasses are going to be highly, highly accurate. So when you walk into a shopping mall and you're looking at a Nike store or something like that, it's going to know where you are and what you're looking at, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can ask it all sorts of questions. Hey Siri, when is that store open, right? And all of a sudden the AI knows exactly what you're looking at, knows exactly where you are, and can contextually provide you much better data than you can with a mobile phone. And that's when the revolution really is coming. When you're starting to get apps like that work almost everywhere in your life, then the paradigm shift has happened, right?
Yeah.
And we're still a few years from, maybe 5 years, or maybe even a little bit more than 5 years, maybe even 5 to 10 years away from really seeing that happen.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. So, do you think that AR will have an aha moment, like, for example, a moment when we discover a killer app for it, or it's just a process?
I think it's going to be. You can think of some killer apps for it. Pokemon Go is the number one AR
Yeah.
app right now, and certainly games in the streets are going to be fun, and they're going to be a big deal. Facebook bought a company called Scape, which will let you play multiplayer games in the
Yeah,
street,
yeah.
and that'll be pretty cool. Facebook, if you haven't figured out, Facebook and Apple are really in a spending war right now, and a talent war, uh, because they're both building glasses.
Yeah.
Over the next 4 or 5 years, they're both going to go to war for the consumer, and see which approach wins with consumers, right? Oh God, there's going to be for me, I'm not a gamer really. I mean, I play a lot of games on VR, but mostly to keep up with the industry right now and to understand this new
Mm-hmm.
paradigm, because that's an Oculus Quest that costs $400 is mostly about video gaming. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some education apps and there's some medical apps and some mental health apps and some specialized apps, enterprise apps on it, that you have to keep up with. But for the consumer, most of the reason right now to buy an Oculus Quest is exercise or video gaming, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And exercise is video gaming, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing a game called Supernatural right now, which is actually a fitness coach, and then you play a game where things are coming at you, and you have to swing your arms and duck underneath things, and
Uh-huh.
you get sweaty after 20 minutes of just playing this game, and you're wearing an Apple Watch so it can watch your heart rate and make sure you're actually working out, and it's just as good as going for a run.
Exactly. Exactly.
But um, when people ask me why, there's a lot of resistance to this if you haven't figured that out yet, right? There's a lot of people who are like, I hate glasses. I'll never wear glasses. I go, you're going to have to wear the glasses, and you're going to wear them within a couple of weeks of me getting them, or you're going to get fired. And they're like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? And I said, if I walk into your boss's meeting, in a conference room, and I have some glasses on that let me see your sales data in 3D, I'm going to see information in that 3D-ness that you're not going to see. And I'm going to point that out to the boss. And then the boss is going to go, why don't you have a pair of those glasses? And pretty soon you're going to have a pair of those glasses, or you're going to lose your job.
Mm-hmm.
And I can give you many examples where this is going to be true. All right. If you want to do surgery, you have to wear the glasses. Why?
Exactly.
Because I know a surgery team in coming out of Cleveland Clinic where the surgeon's wearing a HoloLens, and it shows them how to put the cutting tool into a cancer tumor. And if you don't want to use glasses, you don't have a job anymore. They're going to fire you because it's not as good. The old model is not as good as using HoloLens, right? If you want to fly an F-35 airplane, if you want to be in the Air Force, you have to wear the glasses. They already
Exactly.
have them. They have augmented reality glasses now for several years. And one of the pilots told me, I'll never lose to anybody else. Why? Because I can see you and you can't see me. Because I have AR glasses on and you don't have AR glasses in your headset. He actually can see through the bottom of the plane to you underneath, right?
Yeah.
So you can't
Exactly.
hide. You can't hide from him anymore. He can see you. Plus, he's a stealth plane. You're probably flying an F-16. You can't see him. But you know, the military use of it is very clear. I'm saying everybody's going to have to use these because they're going to bring so much utility. Here's an example. When you put on the Apple glasses, they look in your eyes and they know whether you have cataracts or not. They automatically change the lens to be a prescription lens. And then they might say, maybe you can't read the newspaper very well because you're old and your eyes are getting bad.
Uh-huh.
Hey Siri, can you zoom in that newspaper? And the
Uh-huh.
thing will just zoom in, right? Or hey Siri, if I'm walking around at night, hey Siri, can you show me what the street looks like in the daytime? Boom. It'll put a 3D map of the street on the glasses so you can see what it looks like during the daytime, and you don't need to use a flashlight to walk around,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? you know,
Exactly.
it's pretty crazy what's coming, and and this is part of the problem is people don't know what's coming because most people haven't even played VR, right?
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
people, I don't know if you saw the video that went around the last couple of days where a, a guy tried VR and then jumped off of a board
Yeah.
into his
Yeah.
TV, breaking his TV, right?
Yeah. I've seen
I've
that.
done that. I had that experience at Stanford University where Jeremy Bailenson, who did a lot of VR, does a lot of VR research, right, at Stanford University. And that's where Mark Zuckerberg went and visited. And then a month later, he bought Oculus, the
Uh-huh.
company, after getting that demo. But that demo is really real. And it messes with your mind so completely that you do things like that, right? And you get scared. I've seen people get scared out of their minds, like, get this headset off of me. There's a monster about to eat me, you know? And it's like, wow, that's a very powerful computer for the mind. In fact, in our book, we talk to many medical researchers who are studying pain, like at the University of Washington. If you go to vrpain.com, they show that VR is better at solving some kinds of pain, like burn victim pain, than morphine is. So it's
Really?
seen as, yeah, 5 times better than morphine at a certain kind of pain coming off of burns. So it might be an answer to opiates, which is kills 40,000 people in the United States. Opiate addiction does. So if you can get over your back pain or your skin pain by wearing some VR, that might be helpful. People who play VR notice that they feel better after playing VR. Why? Because it affects your mental health. And down at UCLA, they're doing research about PTSD and a bunch of other things, dementia, using glasses to try to fix the brain. And they're seeing a lot of good results as well on those things. So you're going to start seeing. So yeah, we can keep talking for hours. The translation is you're going to have to wear the glasses because the glasses are going to make your life better
Yeah,
and going to make your life dramatically better. And therefore, not having them is going to be like not having a cell phone today.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could live without a cell phone today, but it's really hard to see how.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
be part of the modern world. I mean, you
Yeah.
want to have a FaceTime call with somebody and you don't have a phone, well, that ain't gonna work, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, speaking of Apple glasses, do you see that the initial launch will be a fully functioning augmented reality glasses, or at
Yes.
the beginning it will be something just fashionable with just overlaying information?
No, it depends how you define it. The, the problem is with all products always have trade-offs, right?
Uh-huh.
If you spend too much money on this feature or function, then you won't have enough money to do something else, right?
Yeah.
When Steve Jobs shipped the first iPad, there was a space for a camera, but the first iPad didn't have a camera because he had to spend too much money in the other areas to come out with a $500 retail price, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Apple's going to have some of those same trade-offs. From what I hear, they're aiming at a really, really lightweight pair of glasses that use your phone for the GPU and all that. So the system is not capable of doing full-on virtual reality,
Mm-hmm.
from what I hear. And I just wrote this up in a blog post last weekend about why Apple's not doing VR. That's
Uh-huh.
why. They can't put a big enough GPU and they can't put enough battery to make a fully, and also the optic system is not wide field enough. You still have a small field of view.
Yeah, yeah.
It if you haven't seen a VR system has a 90 to 110 degree field of view. Your eye can see about 180 degrees, 160, 180 degrees, somewhere in
Mm-hmm.
there, field of view, right? And your TV, if you have a nice 70-inch TV, it's probably a 15-degree field of view or up to 30-degree field of view, depending on how close you are to it, right?
Yeah.
So these Apple glasses are supposed to give you a 50-degree field of view,
Mm-hmm.
which it's not VR, it's not immersive like an IMAX theater, but it's not as small as your TV either. So it's going to be something in between. And yes, it'll do augmented reality of some note. We don't yet know how crazy it's going to be. Is it going to map out your entire house and every centimeter of your house? I assume it will. I assume there's going to be some 3D sensors on the front of it that'll let it do that. And so it'll let you do some pretty advanced things, but we haven't yet seen these. So I'm guessing, I'm guessing based on on the leaks I've had from Apple employees and others who tell me that there's going to be something like 6 sensors in the front, 4 cameras and a 3D sensor, and then an eye sensor. So it'll be, it should be pretty shocking to most people what it can do. Yeah. If you played VR, it might not be so shocking, because VR is shocking to most people, right? When they finally get a really good chance to get a good hour-long demo in VR, most people I show it to come away and go, that is sick, right? That is nuts. And the glasses should match that. If they don't, something's gone wrong, you know?
Yeah.
So
totally.
Apple's going to come out and say that, you know, there really hasn't been much innovation in eyeglasses for hundreds of years. I mean, the eyeglasses I wear, and by the way, 60% of people have to wear some kind of eyeglasses, right? The eyeglasses I wear, they're $1,500, by the way. They're titanium. They have the best coatings and the best lenses, right? They're pretty nice lenses. But they really haven't changed. I mean, if you give me a 100-year-old pair of glasses, yeah, they'd be heavier and the lens is probably thicker, right? But they really wouldn't do anything different than my current glasses do, right?
Yeah.
Which is just make the world sharper.
Yeah.
And Apple's going to go, well, you know, we haven't really had much innovation in this world for a while. Let's talk about, you know, some of these things, like, can you see at night? Can you magnify things? Can you look at something and ask for help? You know, how do you use this product, right? Hey, Siri, like I'm looking at my washing machine, right? Hey, Siri, what is this feature on this washing machine? Because I don't know. It can actually see what button you're looking at, right? And augment it and put a little video on there, or put a little dude there and say, who then teaches you about your washing machine, right? And that's why they want augmented reality. It's not augmented reality to make the product. It's augmented reality to make the product better, right?
Exactly.
And that's the Apple twist, where companies like Magic Leap really tried to say, oh, this is augmented reality. This is why you would buy this. And they didn't understand, and they should have really been trying to disrupt eyeglasses. And I think Apple's going to be pretty popular in terms of disrupting eyeglasses, but we'll see, you know?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm going to be first in line. I got my $2,000 all saved up. And if they suck, I'll say that, right? If I have to go back to my old ones, I'll say that. And if I don't, and I can lay out 20 reasons why you need these, you know, a lot of people will buy them.
Let's hope for the latter.
Well, I'm expecting, you know, Apple's the most profitable company in the world, right?
Yeah.
And they're spending something like $10 billion of R&D on this thing, and bought all sorts of little companies to do all sorts of things, right? So if they don't come out with a product that's just like, what? You know, wow.
Yeah.
Then they failed. And Tim Cook doesn't want to launch a product that just sort of, that's sort of nice, but you know, we have the Oculus Quest already. You know, they want to come out with a product that really, you know, grabs people's attention and excites them about it, using it, because there are some major privacy risks with this, and that's one reason Apple's been so strong about marketing it, you know, its privacy. Because they want to set in everybody's head, hey, Apple's the trusted company. We don't have advertising inside your privacy, right? You know, we don't sell your data to an advertiser like Facebook does or Google does, right? And they're really going to try to separate themselves and explain why you should trust Apple while wearing these glasses. And I think Apple has a good shot at that. Facebook and Google, because everybody knows now. You know, Facebook data is like, you know,
all over the
there's
place.
Been so many examples. Yeah,
totally agree. Have you read the news about Apple's new app Gobi? What do you think about that? Is it something like Snapchat codes and move towards metaverse for Apple? Just a few hours ago, an app named Gobi leaked on iOS 14.
Oh, I didn't even see that. I've been dealing with Zoom calls with my
Uh-huh.
kids all day today. So let me see. Um, let me see what they are saying there. I don't know. I'll keep reading.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it on tech memes. So
Uh-huh.
um, I'll have to do some reading on that. But Apple's doing a whole bunch of things with apps on, and we'll do a lot more with identity, with security, and they're doing a lot of stuff with COVID, trying to do this contact tracing.
Uh-huh.
Right. So if you come into contact with another Apple user or a Google user who has the virus, it'll warn you and say, "Hey, you were around somebody who just showed up at the hospital and
Uh-huh.
was using this app as well." The problem, I mean, there's lots of problems there. It's an interesting idea, but I don't know.
Uh-huh.
We'll have to see.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Regarding the current situation and the pandemic, and as many companies move towards remote work, the vision that we'll have our offices in VR gains hope. Mark Zuckerberg even went further and said that the solution to the current real estate crisis is VR. What do you think about the effect of this pandemic on a spatial computing industry?
Um, the pandemic, it almost came 2 or 3 years too early, really, for
Uh-huh.
the industry, and you're seeing lots of arguments back and forth about, is VR important right now. I think it's the wrong argument. The pandemic plowed the field and got the field ready
Mm-hmm.
for this new kind of computing that's coming, and it got everybody caught up to the same place. Everybody now knows they can buy things on their phone, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows they have Zoom or Skype or Microsoft Teams, and they can do a video call. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows.
Mm-hmm.
I've had calls with janitors and with teachers.
Yeah.
If you told me 4 months ago my teachers would all be doing Zoom calls and we'd be teaching at home, I would have said you're insane. There's no way a teacher's going to learn how to do that. But all of a sudden, everybody got up to date, right?
Yeah.
So everybody caught up on the stuff I was talking about for 15, 20 years. And, I was using CUC back in 95, which is video calls, right? But back then it was really shitty and it was hard to use and not many people were on. Now everybody's on, right? And the
Uh-huh.
quality is really, really pretty good. Now everybody's ready. All right, Zoom really sucks for some things. Like you can't crawl around a virus with a scientist in Zoom. It doesn't work. Or
Yeah,
design a car or look at a building. No, you want to actually see it in 3D.
exactly.
So now you're ready for VR. Everybody's caught up, and now we're all ready for going forward again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't have money. So now we have to catch everybody up and get them a new job in this new world. And this will happen, right? Because there's going to be many new jobs that just seem weird today
Yeah.
in VR. But my son's building entire, buildings in metaverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he could do that for profit pretty soon, right?
Exactly.
And you're starting to see musicians play with it. You're starting to see school teachers starting to play with it because they understand that thinking and teaching in 3D is a lot better than teaching on a 2D screen, right? And
Exactly.
so you're going to see a lot of movement over the next 5 years, right?
Yeah, yeah. Let's
The
hope
next
so.
5 years, you're going to see a lot of change. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. So, Robert, we can't talk about the spatial computing without mentioning Magic Leap. What happened? Is it fair to blame the pandemic for the problems at Magic Leap? And how do you overall analyze this
No,
company?
no, I knew it was going to be a troubled company more than a year ago,
Uh-huh.
because it just wasn't going to be able to survive the Apple and Facebook onslaught, and they just didn't have enough money to market. It's funny when you say a $2.7 billion a company that has $2.7 billion doesn't have enough money But it really, to build a brand that it would need to build, it would need 10 to 20 billion. And the investors sort of started cutting it off. And the pandemic just was the final bullet. There was no hope after the pandemic because investors are getting very conservative now, right? They're not going to fund anything crazy. And anybody who's smart about Magic Leap knows that Magic Leap was a big stretch and just wasn't going to be able to withstand Apple's onslaught. So, there'll be a lot of postmortems. I don't want to say too much more because there still are people employed there and they're still trying to sell the patent portfolio and trying to get funding and stuff like that. But it's going to be a tough. At this point, I don't see how they're going to save the company. It's just not something I would recommend people thinking about. They say they're an enterprise company now, but who's going to buy them? Who's going to buy 10 pairs of glasses for their company in this kind of environment where a dollar is really, really valuable now?
Exactly.
And, people are getting laid off. You don't want to be seen as somebody who spends money on unsafe, on unproven company and a company that looks like it's going to go out of business, right? And just laid off 1,000 people. And they don't have the tools to compete with Microsoft HoloLens. Microsoft HoloLens has enterprise developers locked up for 20 years, right? And so you're not going to win very many sales, if any, against a HoloLens. HoloLens is a much better product for the enterprise, and it doesn't have a cord, and it doesn't have a puck. Now, Magic Leap was trying to finish off, or is still trying to finish off its next pair of glasses, which will be lighter weight and much cooler than the HoloLens. But they don't have enough money to market it and build stores and build, and compete with Apple or Facebook. Apple and Facebook have money machines that they can continue to pour money into these things for years. Apple can lose 20, they can lose $50 billion for the first 5 years. And because Apple will know if it's successful in getting these on everybody's face, that all of a sudden all the world's services are going to be on the Apple glasses, and they're going to make hundreds of billions of dollars on the other side of that. But how does a company like Magic Leap compete with that ability to lose that kind of money, to invest that kind of money? And Facebook can do the same. Mark Zuckerberg every quarter has how many billions of dollars of profit that he can just funnel into this new business until this new business works for 5 years, maybe. You can't compete with that. It's not rational.
Yeah.
And anybody who says they can compete with it, it's not rational. It's just not rational. Unless you have something so spectacular that nobody has seen. Right. And I asked Apple's co-founder, Steve Wozniak, how do you start an Apple? How did you do that? And he goes, it happens every once in a while. He said about every decade, where a new idea comes along that nobody pays attention to. And that is not the case with Magic Leap. Magic Leap was beaten to the market by Microsoft with HoloLens. And by the time both of those were on the market, I knew about Apple and Facebook spending billions of dollars. Facebook bought Oculus for $3 billion, right? So, and they continue to invest in it, and they're building 2 huge skyscrapers for the AR VR team, right? In Menlo Park, or San Mateo. There's no way that Magic Leap can compete with that. They didn't have a product that was really spectacular that nobody else was going to come out with for 3 years. That's not going to be the case, So, and it's unfortunate. They made a lot of bad decisions, which I blame on Roni a bit. Trying to build its own chip from scratch. In hindsight, was not a smart idea. Qualcomm is spending billions of dollars investing in their XR2 platform, which is a series of chips to do the 5G radio, the GPU, the AI sensors, the AI chip and the 3D sensors, and put them together in a pair of glasses. And Microsoft uses Qualcomm, right? And so does everybody else other than Magic Leap and Apple, right?
Yeah.
And so betting against Qualcomm, who understands how to build chips and has been doing it for 30 years, it turns out, I think, too much of Magic Leap's money went into chip design. If you look internally inside the company, so
yeah.
Anyway,
Unfortunately,
we can have a much better conversation after it either gets sold or figures out what its future is, or goes out of business, and I think that'll all happen by the end of the year. So, and I'm hearing it probably is going to go out of business because I keep hearing, there's lots of rumors. Oh, this company is going to come in and give us $100 million. $100 million is not enough to save the company. It's not. It's not going to make it a viable product in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so it's a tough thing to say that. And I'm sorry to all the employees who bet on it, but this is where we are.
Yeah.
And might as well just be honest about it so that they can get on with their lives. Luckily, there's lots of companies hiring, and you might be on the street for a year, but when next year, investors already told me they're going to start amping up investments in this space, right? And I just created a Twitter list of 1,700 companies in the VR AR space, and most of those are vibrant. And so you're going to see a lot more excitement next year because there's going to be a lot of new products. There's a new Oculus Quest coming, probably early next year, and there's Nreal coming, and there's Focals by North coming, and there's a few other things coming, maybe a Sony product. So, and Apple will come in sometime in the next 24 months. So, 24 months from now, this industry is rocking. Right? That's my prediction.
Let's hope so. The hardware business in augmented reality is so hard. It's so hard.
Oh, it's hard. I don't even believe in Microsoft, and Microsoft has billions and billions and billions of dollars. Microsoft's going to be important for other reasons, but not for putting glasses on your face.
Yeah.
Although the HoloLens right now is the best way to go. I mean, the surgery team I work with is using HoloLenses, right? But I think once Apple comes into the market, you're going to see it's going to be like the iPhone. It's going to switch everybody over to the new Apple device, or almost everybody, right?
Yeah. So is there a chance that some new company rises in this new paradigm and be the main player of it somehow?
There's always a chance. If you want to get real nerdy, we could talk for an hour about Tesla and Niantic. Niantic is the company that owns Pokemon Go, and they just bought a AR cloud company called 6D.ai. And they've invested in a bunch of lens companies, like Digital Lens that makes optics for augmented reality glasses. And they want to have a cheap augmented reality glass for kids to play games on the market sometime soon, 24 months, 36 months. And they're also building a platform that other developers can build on top of because they have a huge database of the earth, right? Pokemon Go knows where every shopping center is, where every park is, where every place that humans loiter, like a ballpark, right? Because that's where you play Pokemon Go, right? You pull out when you're standing around and you're bored, you pull out Pokemon Go. Or the kids bug you for the phone. Hey, I'm bored, Daddy. Can I have your phone to play Pokemon Go? Oh, sure. Here's your phone. Well, when they're playing Pokemon Go, they're mapping out the park, right?
Exactly.
And they're adding a lot of data to their system. Their system knows a lot of things about that park, right? And they know a lot of things about your living room if you let your kids play inside too, right? There we go. So that's the basics of a strategy. Then Elon Musk was like, hey, look at my augmented reality games that I'm playing in my Tesla. And Niantic's founders tweeted back to Elon and said, we should get together. And I said, yes, you should. Because when the Cybertruck comes out, if there's Cybertruck glasses with Niantic's system and digital lenses or something like that, right? And Tesla's data.
Oh,
Okay,
that would be
now I'm
so
thinking
cool.
it would be very cool, and I would buy a pair of those too. Right?
Uh-huh.
My question is, when will I take off the Apple glasses to put something else on?
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah, get
If
it.
I want to get exercise and I want to be inside VR, I'll take off the Apple glasses and put on the Oculus Quest.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that'll be for half an hour, right? Then I'll put the Apple glasses back on. But if Tesla had glasses for the Cybertruck or controlling your transportation system, oh, I can't drive with the Apple glasses on anymore. I put on the Tesla glasses. So now I'm starting to think like that. So there are always possibilities. But notice Tesla has stores. They have a brand that people know and like, or hate. Very, very, is you have some emotion about the brand, right? Which is fashion, right?
Yeah.
Fashion always causes emotion. You're either an Adidas customer or you're a Nike customer,
Yeah.
and you have something to say about those two brands, right? Oh, I don't like Adidas because they look like no. And Tesla has software people. They have the best software people in the business, bar none. They shipped 3 updates between Christmas and New Year's, and these were major updates to my car. Who the hell is checking in code between Christmas and New Year at any other company? Right?
Yeah.
Their team is running, and it still is running, even though they're all working at home, because software people can work at home, right? They don't care where they're working. In fact, they're probably more productive at home than they are going into the office and having a ton of meetings, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, Tesla could do that. Amazon's another one. I'm in my kitchen, and Amazon knows more about my kitchen than any other company. So now I'm like, do I need a pair of Amazon glasses in my kitchen? Will they have an app on Apple's glasses? Probably, right? But all of a sudden I start thinking, Amazon's going to come in and, after Apple and, try to take some share away from Apple, right? And I could see Amazon doing a pretty credible job there, but they have some things they have to fit in, and they don't have the ability to launch it.
Uh-huh.
Apple has to explain this new product category to the world, because Apple has the marketing dollars and the brand, and people pay attention when Apple does something. People don't pay
Exactly.
attention like that to Amazon. Although Amazon's done pretty well with its Amazon Echo, right? But you're going to see some competition over, 5-10 years from now. It could be a different world. I
Yeah,
still think
for sure.
Apple's a pretty important company in 10 years. But is Tesla more important? And is Tesla taking share? It could. And is that Amazon taking share? Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because Amazon has a huge economic engine, which is getting more and more important every day.
Yeah.
Dramatically more important in the last 3 months.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they're building virtual shopping stores and stuff. They would love you to be wearing a 3D glasses, because
For sure.
you could actually have a virtual grocery store in your house, and instead of looking at a little picture on a mobile site, you would have this big, huge virtual store in front of you. And you could just flip through it or point at it or look at it and say, "Hey, I'll take 3 of those and 5 of
Uh-huh.
those," right? And try on clothes, right? There's all sorts of stuff coming in retail that's going to be pretty mind blowing once we get glasses. But Amazon could be a disruptor there for sure. And Amazon knows how to make physical things as well, and how to get them to you fast, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So expect some disruptions from Seattle. Yep, from Amazon for sure.
Yeah, let's
And then
see.
Microsoft could do something. Microsoft is almost turning into a data center company now. I mean, their data centers are the biggest in the market. And
Hmm.
Microsoft actually probably will make more money on an Apple pair of glasses than Apple makes on it. Because everything you do on the Apple glasses will be hosted in either an Amazon server or a Microsoft server or a Google server, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Microsoft has the biggest data centers. And there's lots of companies that don't want to deal with Amazon because Amazon, like Walmart will never host their data on Amazon, right? Because
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
competitor.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So, Robert, you mentioned 60 AI. One of the most interesting topics in spatial computing is AR cloud. How do you see the current and future state of AR cloud, and who are the most important
yeah.
players in this field?
Well, we should talk. I mentioned digital twins before when I talked about car factories, right?
Yeah,
And what we're about to do is do a digital twin of literally everything. The entire world is going to be a digital twin. When I say digital twin, there's going to be a database that has a 3D model of, let's say, your living room or your park or your shopping mall or your sporting arena or your church or your school, right? And once you have a 3D model like that put into a database on top of the real world, now you have the ability to put all sorts of virtual things on top of that database, information, videos, game characters rolling around, right? All sorts of things. And
exactly.
that's the AR cloud. That's the AR cloud. It's the things on top of the virtual digital twin, right? And this is going to be an important, really big business. Niantic could be a really important business soon because they have the best AR cloud. And that's what 60.ai was figured out how to make one of these digital twins off of a cell phone camera
Yeah,
with a small GPU. And so you would just play a game or something, and while you're playing the game, it's building a digital twin of your house, right?
yeah,
It's seeing everything you're seeing, and they have examples of going down store aisles in grocery stores with your camera, and it just makes a 3D image of the store, right?
exactly.
And so that technology is pretty mind blowing, and those people now are at Niantic, putting that kind of technology into Niantic's to make the Niantic's platform better. And so Niantic could be a company, and I've talked with like the head of AR over there, Ross Finman, and he wants to make a platform company, sort of like Twilio um, is for Uber, right? When you make an Uber call, it uses Twilio as the phone connection, right? When you call a driver, you're not using Uber actually, you're using Twilio. So Uber hands itself off to Twilio, and Twilio makes the call, and then connects you, right? And Twilio is a big business now, right? And so if Niantic could be this platform underneath every app or two-thirds of every app, right? It could really have a dramatically huge business and a very disruptive one because where does Google make a lot of its money? On knowing the world, right? And knowing
Exactly.
how to get you around and where to buy things. Well, Niantic could come in and take some of that market away. So Google better worry about that,
Yeah, 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 for sure. So, Robert, for our last question, how do you envision a future world with spatial computing fully established in our daily lives?
Oh, um, you put on the glasses and they start showing you the news and and helping you live and telling you where you left your keys and letting you see virtual screens all around you so you can sit down and work and design things in 3D with your hands and maybe a little pen or maybe some gloves to get more accuracy. But the future works like you do. I watched a 4-year-old kid play VR, and she didn't need to learn a command to copy a file. She just grabs something like she grabs a cup and
Uh-huh.
moves it. And that's when I recognize this is going to bring computing to people who've never thought of using computing, because it was too hard to learn all the commands and all the things that you had to learn to make a computer work. These are just going to be, it's just going to be eyeglasses, and you put them on and it's going to say hi. Want to listen to some news, listen to some music, right? Watch some video, play a game, go shopping, right? And
Yeah.
it'll just be a little menu. It'll be just talking to you like that all day. And then if you have an impulse, hey Siri, what's the weather? Oh, the weather tomorrow is sunny, and here's a picture. And here's the satellite over your head that's watching the weather for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? You know, and you know, hey Siri, what's happening with the stock market? The stock market was up 3% today. You did really well in the market. Here, do you want to see a chart of all your investments? Do you want us to dive in on anyone specific? Right? It can show you and talk to you. That's the other revolution happening. There's several revolutions all happening at the same time. Spatial computing is just going to be given the credit, right? Because when
Yeah.
you put on the Apple glasses, you're not going to think about the 3D sensor revolution. You're not thinking about the voice revolution, right? But there's a real revolution underway in voice and voice AI understanding. I wrote some of my book by talking to my iPhone with an app called Otter, and it just wrote it down for me, right? So why did I need to sit there and type? No, I could take a walk around the block and write my book, right?
Yeah.
So there's a real revolution coming in voice. 5 years from now, the voice is going to be very, very smart compared to what it is today. Today, when you talk to Siri, she's fairly stupid, right? I'll call her stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
You ask her questions and she doesn't come back with answers, right? And Alexa is just as stupid. And in fact, Alexa is stupider than Siri, which is hard to say. Google's actually pretty smart. Google actually answers most of your questions, but then you start asking about other things that it should know about. It doesn't know that much about it, right? The kitchen is a good example.
Yeah.
And it's improving, right? You're seeing a rapid improvement in all of these engines. Every month you see improvements, right?
Exactly.
And there's a new Siri being built for the Apple glasses, and we'll see how good it is. But in 5 years from now, voice is going to be very, very good, and you're going to have conversations with, the God in the sky, and be assisted. Right? Hey Siri, I need help here. I don't know what to do. Where are you? First of all, it's going to know where you are. Oh, you're at school. What, do you need help finding class? Do you need help finding a bus? What? Oh yeah, I needed a bus. Thank you. It's going to be much smarter about your context and what you're trying to do, right? In fact, it
Yeah.
might not even ask you that because it knows you're standing at the bus stop and you're looking at the bus schedule and you're asking for help. And maybe you can't read the bus schedule for some reason. And it could say, hey, the next bus is coming in 29 minutes. And here's where the bus is. In Seattle, all the buses have GPS on them. So you can see on a internet map where they all are, right? Stuff like that. This is going to be fun. It's a
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
world coming.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, Robert, thanks very much for all the work you do. Yeah, you've been an
Thanks.
inspiration for me personally since I started my journey in AR and VR about 10 years
Thank you.
ago, and I'm sure for many other
Awesome.
people as well. Thank you very
And you're
much.
inspiring too. Yeah, thanks. You're inspiring too. I mean, this is a fun community to be watching, reading, part of, to be talking
Exactly.
with. We're all in this together, and we're going to discover, a new paradigm together, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people will get really rich doing it, and some people will just have better lives because of it. Like, I don't have the capability to write, a new video game or a new shopping app. So, but this technology is making my life better every day. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And it'll soon will make everybody's life better. Yeah.
Exactly, for sure. Well, thank you very much, Robert, for joining the All Things XR podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.